Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today's story is about those who dared to draw the unknown. Long before satellites and Google Maps, the Earth was a mystery, vast, dangerous, and untamed. Yet a few visionaries took ink, parchment, and courage and tried to sketch the shape of the world. They were the map makers, men and women who blended science, art, and faith to turn chaos into order. From the ancient Babylonians who carved the first maps on clay, to the explorers of the Renaissance who mapped new continents, every line they drew was a declaration. We are no longer lost. When the first humans looked up at the stars, they were not merely admiring their beauty. They were trying to make sense of where they stood in the universe. To live without direction is to live in fear. And so, long before compasses or satellites, people began drawing their world in symbols. The earliest maps were not meant for navigation, but for survival. The Babylonians etched their lands into clay tablets, marking rivers, hills, and temples. These crude diagrams were less about geography and more about identity. Proof that they existed somewhere specific in the vastness of creation. Each mark was a claim against chaos, a declaration that this is where we are. In ancient Egypt, maps became instruments of power. Pharaohs used them to survey fertile lands and collect taxes from farmers. To map something was to own it, a concept that would shape centuries of empire and conquest. In Greece, maps took on a philosophical dimension. Thinkers like Anaximander and Eratosthenes dared to imagine the Earth as a sphere suspended in space, and with simple geometry, they drew the first scientifically reasoned maps. Eratosthenes even measured the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy, using only shadows and curiosity. It was an act of genius born not from technology, but from imagination, proof that knowledge, when pursued with faith, could overcome ignorance. The Romans inherited this spirit and turned it into infrastructure. Their maps, though not always precise, connected a vast empire with roads, towns, and sea routes. The saying, "All roads lead to Rome," was not just a boast. It was a cartographic truth. Roman engineers mapped their roads to military perfection, their knowledge stretching from Britain to the deserts of Syria. When the empire fell, its maps scattered too, vanishing into monasteries and libraries, hidden from the light for centuries. For a long time afterward, the world seemed to shrink again. In medieval Europe, maps became theological rather than practical. Mappamundi, vast circular illustrations that placed Jerusalem at the center of the world. They were not designed to help anyone travel, but to remind them of their place in God's plan. East pointed toward paradise, and monsters filled the edges where knowledge ended. In those dark corners, the mapmakers wrote, "Here be dragons," confessing that beyond the known lay mystery, and perhaps madness. But curiosity never truly dies. It sleeps, waiting for brave hands to wake it. In the Islamic Golden Age, that courage returned. Arab scholars, inspired by Greek texts and driven by trade across deserts and oceans, revived geography as a science. Al-Idrisi, working in the court of King Roger II of Sicily, created one of the greatest maps of the medieval world, a silver disc depicting continents, rivers, and trade routes that stretched from Spain to India. His work showed not only the shape of the earth, but also the unity of human ambition. Muslim sailors used his charts to guide ships across the Indian Ocean, while merchants carried knowledge of faraway lands to bustling cities like Baghdad and Cairo. For the first time since Rome, maps were once again instruments of exploration, not just faith. Then came the age of rediscovery, and with it, chaos. As European explorers set sail into the unknown, maps became weapons as much as tools. Each voyage redrew the world. Columbus carried charts filled with errors, yet his belief in what those maps could show drove him across an ocean. Magellan's crew, guided by stars more than accuracy, circled the globe and returned with proof that maps could no longer contain the world. They would have to grow. The cartographers of Europe, like Gerardus Mercator, rose to this challenge. Mercator's projection, though distorting continents, offered sailors the gift of straight-line navigation, revolutionizing how humans moved across the sea. His maps were works of both precision and poetry, a blend of mathematics and imagination that revealed not just geography, but the boundless reach of human vision. To map, by then, had become an act of domination as well as discovery. Each new coastline drawn by European explorers represented power seized, territory claimed, people displaced. Empires competed not only for land, but for accuracy. The map was the first battlefield, and whoever controlled its truth controlled the narrative of the world. In royal courts, kings and queens bent over freshly inked charts, their eyes glittering with conquest. Every mountain and river labeled in Latin was a quiet declaration. This belongs to us. And yet, for all its politics, map-making remained deeply human. Each line was drawn by someone who had once stood on a cliff, looking at the horizon, wondering what lay beyond. The map-makers were dreamers disguised as mathematicians. They risked disease, shipwrecks, and solitude to collect fragments of truth. Their ink was often mixed with seawater and their parchment smudged by trembling hands. Yet they persisted, because the urge to understand is older than fear.